Welcome to Your Money Matters. This is your weekly show just after your New Year's break. Now we're going to talk about a great deal, as I do, but of course, there's always a change. So let's start with the festive season on this show. Welcome back. I hope you've had a lovely break. You're feeling all energized, your head is clear, and your mind is clear, and you're here ready to face this year, the year 2019. But what we're also seeing is a time of coldness. The weather is getting very cold, it's dark, and it's depressing. In such time, I'm also seeing those who are struggling. So, to guide you through the process, what I'm going to talk about on this half of the show, it's about ways for you to get the best deal for gas and electricity. Because I know when it's winter, we use gas more, we use electricity more, because when it's cold, you have to keep yourself warm, to keep yourself livable and habitable. So to really give you an overview of some of the topics I'm going to be covering, I'm going to be covering gas, electricity, and how you can save gas and electricity bills. I'm also going to be talking about ways that you can switch your suppliers and what happens if you have a prepayment meter, and how you can save energy, because clearly our current government has a mandate to make sure we use less energy if we have to. And on top of that, you may have heard that currently there has been an energy price cap. So I will explain to you how that works in reality. So no doubt there is a lot to talk about on the first half, and on the second half I'm going to be talking about equity release. Now this is a very unusual topic, because you may have seen adverts on TV where companies, organizations saying, if you want to look at your options in terms of equity release, give us a call. So what I will try to do is try to make things simple for you, so at least you understand what equity release means. But that's going to be on the second half of the show. So first half of the show, it is about gas and electricity bills and how you can save money. But what I did, I also wanted to find out what members of the public think about this subject. So I went around the whole of East London and interviewed people, and this is what they think about gas and electricity bill.
I'm not too sure, because I know that my mum actually deals with a gas inventory, but I know that at the moment we pay by, we have a meter for our gas, so I think that's more manageable for us, rather than getting a bill every 3 months, I think it was. So yeah. Yes, I do. I'm not into it. It's a case of having to look about £2.95 a day.
sites, and it is go on ones that are look for the ratings, and then you'll know which ones are the best ones. If you're looking for the best deals, there's not many. Like I have many videos up at the top, so we just broke it down what the tariff is, what the price links, if you understand me. I usually go for 18 months to 12 months and see how much you're paying for, because there's always standing charge, but see how much you're paying compared, see how much you're paying now to what other companies are offering, and always look at the ratings as well, but don't always go for the other ones, because I say check what's new, what's in your area, what is suitable for your circumstances.
There we are. We ended with the sentence, depending upon what is suitable for your circumstances. We'll explore your circumstances a bit later, but before we get there, we need to understand the best way to get the deal that you want. So yes, let me go through it. We'll be talking about ways for you to save on gas and electricity. We'll look at ways for you to switch your suppliers. We'll also look at what happens if you have a prepayment meter, and we'll be looking at many more things. If you want to get involved, 02 08 472 8415. So let's crack on with our first one. Now, according to Ofgem is the organization that regulates companies like gas companies and electricity companies. If you have any complaints against electricity companies, in the end it will go to Ofgem. But according to Ofgem, the average household can save up to £300 per year just by switching their gas and electricity supplier. I know many of us don't do that, but it is crucial that we do. So let's look at ways you can switch. Now, and also what switching actually means. Changing suppliers is easy actually. As I said, can change your finances a lot, in fact, by £100. And it doesn't really matter if you rent your home or you own your home. As long as you pay your own gas and or electricity, then you can definitely switch. Now, it doesn't really matter if you have a prepayment meter. That shouldn't stop you from switching your supplier, because even if your account it has a negative balance, for example, let's say you owe £500 for electricity and £500 for gas, it should not stop you moving from one supplier to another in order for you to get a very good deal. And if you are stopped from changing a supplier, let's say from British Gas to whoever, and you're having problems, you can always make a complaint. So you can always make a complaint straight to Ofgem if you wanted to. Not many people know about this, and many of you might be afraid about this, but if you are scared, no doubt seek help. But because you have not been switching, you're finding that you end up paying more, and I don't want that, and I know when times are tough, you don't want that either. There are other ways that you can also get it for cheaper than usual. Now, if you don't do it by direct debit, it ends up being more expensive, and it's usually cheaper, partly because you've already set things up, the company doesn't have to do much, and also you've already set your regular payment, and just by doing that you're actually getting a cheaper rate already, and they should tell you that. Now, the other way would be, and of course we mustn't be shy away from talking about everything, and that's my job when it comes to money, so you get to save money and make money, because in one way you save it, the other way you make it. So, how do you use less? It may be obvious, but when you don't need to use gas or electricity, make sure you switch those things off. There are plenty of tips that I can give you if you want to get in touch with me. 0208 472 8415. Now, that's kind of in a sense of a couple of ways that you can, in general, I suppose, you can get it for cheaper. But let's talk about overall the basics of switching suppliers. Now, it's now, to be honest, easier, very, very easy to find the best deal by sharing your banking information. Now, changing supply is easier and it can save you lots of money, and I want you to save money so you can make money, because every penny you save and don't give to organizations, the money end up staying with you. So that's why you're making it. So yeah, so let's go and talk more about the way you can actually start switching your supplier. Now, before you get started, you'll need a couple of things. First, you'll need a recent energy bill. The other thing you'll need is your bank account. Now, the reason you need an energy bill is because that bill that you get will give you average information, or information about your usage in your place, your flat, your house, and let's say if you live with the kids. So all those things will add up to certain amount that you use, and for that you're paying whichever amount you pay. So, and when you actually do like a price comparison online to get a cheaper deal, they will ask you, in a sense, how much do you use, and when you provide that information to them, you do end up getting to find out roughly based on your usage how much it may cost you, and then you can compare. And then the other thing is, you will definitely need your bank account details, because these days every single companies, especially when we're talking about money, yep, the buzzword money, the companies need to do a credit check. And believe it or not, in one way or another, we are kind of on the mercy of banks and companies to check our information and can't escape that. So that's why you do need your bank details. So straight away, they'll check your credit file to see how bad person you are in terms of your banking, and whether you're a reliable person to deal with. So that's what it is really. So those are the two things you need. One is your energy bill, recent one, to check how much you're using. It's basically your energy statement that you get, and your bank statement. So let's now move to choosing your comparison sites, and that will give you a feel of what is going on. Yes, comparison sites. Price comparison sites help you compare different energy deals available, and they are a great way really to find what's out there for you, for your situation. Yeah, and you can check. Now, Ofgem, the regulator, has its own website. You can check that out. If you Google Ofgem and add accredited price comparison sites, you find it. You need to look at, though, because you need to find out, you need to look at in a sense of which one suits you, by looking at what's available out there. You can see if it costs too much. If you can see if it doesn't cost too much, also you can check whether there are discounts available. So I would say what you do is ofgem.gov.uk, consumers, and then switching suppliers, and it should give you information on that. Then the second thing would be the actual switching. Another word, how you switch. So once you've picked up a few sites that you've checked by going to Ofgem's website, you may have seen a few, and then the next thing is, of course, is actually going for it. And what you do is put your details into the price comparison sites. Details, by that I mean, as I said before, that will be your bank details and your recent energy statement. So once you've got that, you just input those information onto the price comparison sites, and it will definitely tell you what's out there and what's available for you. So that's kind of way that you can do it. So you can then select the one that you want. You can see if it's energy friendly or not, and also they will tell you how you can also switch it. And that's kind of straight and simple way to do it. But let's now move on to what if you have a prepayment meter, then what happens then? Yeah, usually when I see individuals having prepayment meter, it's always when you can tell you are struggling, because when you are on a prepayment meter, it means you haven't been able to, not all, but with some I've noticed, that you are having to, you haven't been able to pay your bill that you usually get on a quarterly basis because you don't have money in your bank account. And therefore you've contacted the supplier and say, look, I have not been able to pay, can you help? And the best way to be on top of your money would be to set up a prepayment meter. And that's how you set it up, and they usually come to your home and put one for you. And then that's kind of how it is, and usually works on a pay-as-you-go basis. And then once it's done, it's pretty much really is whatever you use, that's how you pay. Now, overall, there is a controversy, and everyone's unhappy about it. The regulator, Ofgem, is not happy. Individuals like myself are not happy because you do end up paying more. However, the good thing, some might say, is that you're actually in control of your money, so you're using based on your means rather than kind of end up using lots that you can't afford to pay. But no doubt, let's be frank about it, in winter, when a penny has to go a long way, you may find that the prepayment meter may not be that useful, and on top, you do end up paying more. So that's how it kind of prepayment meter works, really. So I kind of covered also why you may end up having a prepayment meter. But if the let's say company says that you ought to have a prepayment meter, usually it's quite difficult to say no, because they themselves are thinking ways that you can actually manage your money. But in exceptional circumstances, they may not be able to. So it's worth talking to them and saying, look, I can't afford to pay. So yeah. The other thing is, whether you can switch energy if you have a prepayment meter, and I explained this before. Yes, you can. Yes, definitely you can. But yes, you can. So long the bill is less than 500, you should be able to. And if they don't allow you to do it, you should be thinking about complaining. So that's really how you switch. Now let's talk about ways for you to use less energy. Yeah, energy is expensive. Yeah, it is one of those things that you can't avoid. But there are ways you can save. So I've picked up a few tips for you that might help you to save energy, especially in winter. Now, the one thing you could do is turn down your thermostats. just thermostat is what you get on from the boiler, I suppose. Just reducing it by, let's say, 1%, just by 1%, could actually cut 10% of the heating bill. So that's roughly, we're talking about, 75 to 80 pounds per year. It may not a lot, but, sometimes a pound has to go a long way. The other is, please, and I'm guilty as much as everyone else on this, and I'm sure you are too. You may not want to admit it, let's be frank about it. I know what we're all about. We like to pretend that we're all good, but really we're not. It is turn off the lights when you're not using it. So if you're not going to be spending too much time in one room, why the hell do you leave the lights on? Because the moment you do keep the lights on, it costs money. Either you have to pay or someone else has to pay, but in the end, someone has to pay, isn't it? So obviously, you think about those things. So there is no justification but to turn it off unless you have to keep it on. The third one is actually when you're using your, let's say, washing machine. I don't know if you've got a tumble dryer or dishwasher, but usually a washing machine can cost a lot of money. So one full load uses less than 2 half loads. So in other words, if you fill your washing machine with tons and tons of clothes rather than just half empty, you are actually, again, saving your money a lot. And wash your clothes at 30 degrees and don't use so you don't use don't wash your clothes tumble dryer if you can avoid it, because tumble dryer, again, because it kind of dries it only, but if you can actually just put your clothes outside to make it dry, or by your window or balcony or something, obviously then you'll be saving tons of more money. But tumble dryer, I'm afraid, is just a gas guzzling thing. It takes a lot of electricity. So the last thing I want is for you to be having problems. Do you see? So there you go. Let's move to the fourth one. Fourth one is don't boil more water than you need. Now, again, when it comes to water, oh my god, you can fill your kettle up, then you realize that, okay, it's only me who's going to be drinking tea. You see? So obviously, last thing you want is just that. If you are going to be using the kettle, and you make sure you put enough water for people who are going to be drinking it. So, for example, if you've got mates together, like 3 people, make sure it's enough for 3 cups, not for like 10 cups, because for 10 cups, it takes a while for the kettle to boil, so therefore more energy, and therefore the water is being wasted as well. So, best thing to do, for 3 cups, 3 people, make sure enough water in your kettle for 3 people and no more. Okay? You got that message? Well done, you. So, now let's move on to using energy-saving light bulbs. Now, I'm not sure if you are following it, but sometimes I'm afraid saving light bulbs can save a lot of money, because it's designed in such a way it's meant to last a long time, but also it's energy efficient. So again, we are looking at ways to save money, and actually those sort of bulbs last 10 times longer than ordinary bulbs. So again, you save money. Using one can save you around £55 over the lifetime of the bulb. So there we go. So here we are. So that's kind of a way for you to kind of make sure you are actually saving energy. Now how, I would say, do you know the difference between fixed price energy tariff and variable tariff? I'm not sure if you're aware, but if you don't, now it's time for you to find out, because I personally think it is important for you to know. At least then you'll be able to make an informed decision about the difference between not just simply suppliers, but also agreements that you enter into with your suppliers. Yes, suppliers. Now, suppliers will provide you 2 types of tariffs. To make it simple, 2 types of agreement. One is fixed tariff or fixed price energy tariff. The other is variable rate energy tariff. So the question is, what are they and what is the difference? If you're on a fixed price energy tariff, remember to switch again before your deal ends to avoid being rolled over onto a more expensive deal, because usually variable tariffs is their default one. It ends up being more unless you can read it properly and see if it's less. And usually suppliers end up charging you more if you don't make a new agreement. With a fixed price energy tariff, though, you won't be affected by any price hikes for the duration of the contract. So in other words, when you've got a fixed price obviously that's going to be the cost you pay, and they will tell you the average cost that you'll be paying for that period, but also for what period it is. So on average, it could be for a year. So within a year, you have to think about either to create a new tariff, or do you automatically go to a variable tariff. And there is a saying that it will end up costing you more if you're on variable tariff. So that's that. So now, recently you may have heard about energy price cap. So the question is, what is energy price cap for you? Yeah. From December 2018, there will be an energy cap. So we already passed that date, no doubt. We are now in January 2019, and Happy New Year to those who have been sleeping. What does that mean? Is that suppliers will not be able to charge you more than the capped price for energy. So in other words, there's a cap as to how much suppliers can charge you. But be aware though, even there is a cap, you'll probably still have to switch to make the biggest savings. So there is no justification for not saving. And also it's not a cap on the total price you pay, but a cap on the rate that will be charged. And not all energy tariffs are price caps. You need to find out which one is covered and which one it isn't. So that's kind of, in a sense, on a nutshell. So let me just take a few moments, so at least you can also think about what I've talked about, whether those things make sense. And in the meantime, let's take a break and come back and talk about the other topic, which is going to be on equity release.
J&G Cargo, the top demand sales agent and cargo specialist. We can collect your goods from anywhere you can, 24 hours, and deliver to Bangladesh in 3 to 4 working days. Further, for a faster, highly secure and friendly cargo service, J&G Cargo. Call us on 020 747 8878, open 7 days a week. J&G Cargo. If you like our service, tell others. If not, tell us. Okay, off we go.
আপনি যদি গাড়ি অ্যাক্সিডেন্ট করিয়া থাকেন, আমরা আপনার লাগি রিপ্লেসমেন্ট গাড়ি নিয়ে আইব। আপনার অ্যাক্সিডেন্ট ক্লেম থেকে লইয়া রিকভারি আর রিপ্লেসমেন্ট সহ সব কিছু অতি যত্ন সহকারে আমরা করিয়া দিব। জেনারেল অটো সার্ভিসেস টেলিফোন নাম্বার 02085551212।
PCO claims. মিনিক্যাব ড্রাইভারের বিপদের বন্ধু গাড়ি অ্যাক্সিডেন্ট করিয়া জবলেস হওয়ার দিন শেষ। জাস্ট ওয়ান ফোন কলে PCO claims আপনারা দিতে পারে 24 hours recovery, immediate replacement card, storage and repair service. 02077917799.
Welcome back. Welcome back to Your Money Matters. It's me, Ripon. 0208 472 248415. Now, we've covered earlier on about money and how you can save money for your gas and electricity bill. Now, this time I'll be talking about equity release. Now, I'm not quite sure if you've been watching TV or listening to radio or anything else, and you've come across this term or the phrase equity release. Now, there's been a new rise in companies trying to encourage people to go for equity release. So for your benefit, I want to kind of share what equity release mean, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, and how you can deal with it if need be. But do bear in mind, obviously I'm not talking on an individual level. If you are thinking about seeking advice on an individual level, I suggest you do approach an independent financial advisor who is specialist in specific areas. but I'm doing it on a generic level, on a general level, so you get an understanding of what it's all about. So when you are thinking of making that move and thinking about equity release, at least you have some understanding, because these days talking about money, it's not very difficult to find. So when you do talk about it, it's not very difficult to absorb. Another word, maybe I'm getting muddled with my words, but it's not very easy to take in. So money isn't always the most sexiest thing to talk about, but it is something that I can worry us, make us anxious, or even make us happy for a short period of time. So one of the ways that you can perhaps get some money, if need be, when you have a home that you own, is through equity release. So the question is then, for you and for me, is what is equity release? Equity release refers to a range of basically products that gives you access to basically equity, cash, that is tied up to your a home, I suppose, if you are over 55. So the kind of like a secret age is 55 plus. You can take the money you release as a lump sum or in smaller amounts, or combination of both, really depending upon the terms of the agreement of the equity release. So now I will be talking about equity release options that are available, and then I'll be breaking it down into lifetime mortgages, home reversions, things you need to know about equity release, and let's see where we go. I mean, they are not easy subjects that I'll be talking, and maybe for most of you it may not even be relevant, but at least I'm here talking about it. So yeah, there are a number of, I suppose, equity release options. One is lifetime mortgages, and the other is home reversions. Don't worry, they're complicated. Lifetime mortgage is probably, let's kind of talk about those two words, lifetime mortgage. Again, in terms of mortgage, but it is about, in the end, it's about lifetime. So what you do, you take out a mortgage, obviously, which you've done. So you have to be a mortgage holder. So you have a home that is under your name, and either you're a leaseholder, freeholder, whatever it may be. So you have legal ownership of the property, and you are the person who lives there. So, and you, again, you have the ownership of it. And then what you could do, you can hold on to some of the value of property. For example, if you want to give